What if I told you there is one thing that you can do, like literally one small, easy action that takes probably 30 seconds or less, that's going to double your weight loss rate? Well, there is such a thing. I've been a professional coach for the last 16 years and have helped transform over 1,200 successful entrepreneurs so far. And after analyzing what is the one thing that all of them had in common, and there's of course a lot of things, but one thing that never ever failed to help them is having 30 to 50 grams of protein first thing in the morning for breakfast. Now, let's actually go into it, why this works. The reason is because there's a concept called protein leverage theory, which simply means there's a certain amount of protein that you need every day, because remember, protein is by far the most important macronutrient of protein, fats, and carbs. Carbs, you don't need to live at all. Fats, for very, 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 very long time, many, many months, you can live without these two, okay? Carbs you can live without forever. Fats you can live without for many, many months. Protein you can't live very long without at all. Why? Because there's no storage of protein in the body. There's only muscle. And if you don't eat enough protein, the body's literally breaking down muscle, and therefore you die really quickly. So protein is the most important thing. That's why it comes from the Greek word proteus, which means the primary, the first most important one. So your brain, when you wake up in the morning, says, okay, we need protein to live. Once that is done, then we can ask and wish for other things like fats, carbs, etc. Okay? So one thing that you do when you have protein in the morning is you send a signal to your brain, hey, not only that we're not going to die and starve, but we're actually good, because this amount of protein, 30 or 50 grams, is actually because most people don't eat enough protein, especially entrepreneurs. They don't eat enough protein, therefore 50 grams of protein might be the majority of what an average male entrepreneur gets per day, the whole day. So if you have 50 grams of protein in the morning, and I'll tell you in a minute how to get that very easily, you have literally sent the signal to your brain and said, hey, don't worry, the one thing you need the most to survive, you have a lot of that, abundance of that in the morning. Given that we know protein does three major things. One, it keeps your hunger controlled, keeps it down, keeps your appetite controlled. It controls your blood sugar levels. So when you eat all kinds of sugary stuff, especially like candy or processed things, goes, blood sugar level goes up, comes down, and then you're hungry again. And you're always like energy, and then the energy, and then that drop. A lot of times feel that energy crash like midday or between noon and 2 p.m. So none of that happens, or happens a lot less if you have protein in the morning. And then the number 3 protein function is it actually builds muscle. It's anabolic. Just eating protein is going to build more muscle than not eating that protein. Okay, especially if you're lifting weights, of course. So these 3 things are exacerbated even more when you have protein in the morning, because you're literally setting the stage for the day. You're telling your body not only that we're going to starve and die, we're not going to starve and not going to die, but we actually have the main ingredient, the macronutrient that we need, a lot of it in the morning. So the brain is like, oh, it's fine. Now, we also have more research that shows, and practical real-world experience proves this, and I've proven this hundreds of times with my clients, that when clients or when people have high protein breakfast, they tend to be less hungry later in the day. This is one of the many issues with fasting. When somebody says, I'm just going to skip breakfast and not eat anything, that can certainly work fine, because I've talked about fasting many times on this channel. There's nothing magical about it, but there's also nothing wrong with that. If you don't want to have breakfast at all and you just skip it and you're not that much hungrier later in the day, that's totally fine. Some people use fasting as an easier way to control their calories. If you tried it and it works for you, there's nothing wrong with that. You can build just as much muscle when fasting compared to not fasting, etc., etc. So because fasting is just different meal frequency and or meal timing schedule, which we know that both meal frequency and meal timing don't really matter at all for weight loss, and they matter a little bit for building muscle, which means you shouldn't go hungry into your workout and or not eat after your workout. That's a terrible idea. In that case, you're going to get less muscle gains. So for fasting, if you're fasting in the morning, make sure your workouts are later in the day. But if you skip your breakfast and then you feel like you're really ravenous, you can't control your diet, can't control the calories because you're so hungry later in the day, which happens very, very, very often. I'll tell you, vast majority of people that I have worked with, 1,200 transformed clients so far, I can tell you that vast majority of them do feel hungrier later in the day, and then they have harder time controlling the calories. Why not just track your calories and eat normally, having however many meals you want, whether it be 2 or 3 or 4, 5, however many. It doesn't really matter for weight loss results as long as the total calories are the same. You're going to get the same results when it comes to weight loss. It doesn't matter. So, going back to why that's a really good idea is because you're going to feel a lot less hungry later in the day, very likely. Also, your energy level throughout the day is going to be much more steady versus in the morning I have coffee and I have a bunch of sugar and a bunch of processed cereals or whatever it is, and then my blood sugar goes through the roof, I have energy, I'm like, and then come noon, I have an energy crash and I feel like I'm going to fall asleep. If that's the case, I guarantee you 30 to 50 grams of protein in the morning is going to fix this problem. You're going to have a lot more energy, a lot more steady energy throughout the day. Now let's talk about how to get 30 to 50 grams of protein early in the morning. If you're new to this game and you don't know what 30 to 50 grams amount-wise is, please remember, size and thickness and diameter roughly of the palm of your hand of chicken, meat, fish, that amount is about 25 grams. If you say, well, I can't really eat beef or chicken or whatever in the morning, well, I'd say I like eggs. Awesome. You can have 1 egg. If you're trying to diet, you're trying to control your calories. So eggs, you can have 5 or 6 eggs. That's what I have every morning, but that is like 350, 400 calories. Plus other things. It might be too big of a meal for somebody dieting, maybe, especially if you're a smaller, less active person, okay? In that case, you can have 1 whole egg and a bunch of egg whites. Mix all that 1 cart of egg whites is 50 grams. You don't have to use all of it. You can just have half of that in 1 egg, and that's your 30 grams. If you're a woman, 30 grams is more than enough. If you're a guy, especially over 200 pounds guy, try to have 40 to 50 grams. So if you can have 1 egg and that whole cart of egg whites, by all means, even better. There's no such thing as too much protein per meal, generally speaking, because we know that up to 100 grams of protein in 1 meal supports and promotes muscle gains up to 12 hours after that meal. So you can't have too much protein in 1 meal. The only thing you can have is so much protein that you have stomach problems, it's too much, you start farting like crazy. Okay, in that case, don't. But that's certainly not going to happen with 50 grams. It might with more, but you don't need more. So what I'm saying is stay between 30 and 50 grams, 30 if you're a woman or a smaller guy physically, and if you are over 200 pounds guy, try to have 40 to 50 grams. 1 egg, bunch of egg whites, done. The other option, if you don't want to cook at all, if you don't want to prepare anything, you can just have, you're having coffee in the morning, have it, you can just have a 50 gram protein shake. When you're making a protein shake, what's the difference between putting 1 scoop in or 2 scoops in? Makes no difference, it's 2 seconds to prepare, mix it, it's going to taste the same, 50 grams, you're done. Now if somebody's like, oh, I'm the natural, holistic, whatever, dumb, clueless person, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to have processed thing for breakfast, and protein shake is processed food. Okay, dummy. First, is it processed in some way? Yes. Is it bad for you? No. Is it actually extracted from real milk? If you're having whey or casein, yes. So they take real milk, extract it from that, so it's as close as we can say to natural food that isn't really like actual meat or whole foods. So it's not really that processed. Again, artificial sweeteners in it, I talked about that many times on the channel. There's no issues with artificial sweeteners at all within normal amounts. They're not going to affect your health in any negative way. So artificial sweeteners that you get in regular protein powders are totally fine. At the end of the day, it literally takes, if you're making a protein shake, if you can have pre-made protein shakes, just drink it, so no time. Or if you're making your protein shake 5 seconds, 10 seconds to make it, it takes no time, and I absolutely guarantee you is going to transform everything for you when it comes to losing weight. It's going to double at least, if not more, your weight loss rate because of all these other things, not because of any magical thing, but it's just because it's going to control your appetite and make it easier to control your calories overall. So if you like this, please go check out rippedceo.com. It's a community of successful entrepreneurs on their journey to becoming their healthiest, best looking, strongest, highest energy version of themselves. If you are a successful entrepreneur, come join us. Try it for a month. If it doesn't work, you get 100% of your money back. It will work if you work it. It's the best community of that kind that exists, period. And if you want to be coached by me personally, click below and you can book a call with me or my team. And if you are a good fit, a few months from now, you'll be in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. See you next time.